Hey everyone, welcome to our webinar today. I hope you're all doing well and thank you so much for joining us. My name is Stephen Allman. I am going to be today's host. I work for Fourth. Fourth is an organization that is working with Centralina Council of Governments, the City of Charlotte Sustainability Office, and the Bloomberg American Cities Climate Challenge to put on these webinars to help people get more information about electric vehicles and to kind of help show dealerships that people are interested in electric vehicles. So we'll go over a little bit more about the program shortly, but we've got a great panel of EV owners for you today. We have Jess Montgomery, Crystal Marie McDaniels, and Andrew Diamond, who will be speaking later. Andrew. All right. Let me see here. All right, a little background about Fourth. So Fourth, we are a nonprofit trade association that is focused in 4 separate areas. We push for industry development. This means we really come together with different OEMs, so original manufacturers of vehicles, try to push them to creating more or to producing more electric vehicles. We support policy advocacy, so we have lobbyists that are going to legislation and trying to make a difference for EV owners. So there's more infrastructure. We do a lot of demonstration projects, whether that is something to deal with trying to get dealerships involved, or we also do a lot of electric vehicle car shares throughout Oregon and some other areas as well. And consumer engagement. So we work with different organizations to try to reach out to people who weren't necessarily aware of electric vehicles as an option and just kind of show them that they can actually work really well for people's situations. It's kind of an interesting area because, you think about when people are buying cars, sometimes they spend, 2 years thinking about it. Sometimes they spend maybe even less than 2 weeks. All right. Thank you. And here's a little bit of information on Centralina. Go ahead and take it away, Karina.
Hi, Stephen. Thank you. And good morning, everyone. Thanks so much for being here today with us. My name is Karina Soriano. I am a co-coordinator for the Centralina Clean Fuels Coalition. And I'm going to briefly walk you through Centralina and our involvement in the project today. And then I'll be our panel moderator. Go ahead and switch that. So a brief background about the Clean Cities program. We are a Department of Energy established program fostering national economic, environmental, and energy security by working locally to advance affordable domestic transportation fuels, energy efficient mobility systems, and other fuel saving technologies and practices. Nearly 100 coalitions serve as the foundation of the Clean Cities program by working to cut petroleum usage in communities across the country. About 82% of the total U.S. population lives inside Clean Cities Coalition boundaries. And as you can tell, that's a pretty significant chunk from the map of the country. So additionally, Clean Cities is responsible for saving nearly 8 billion gasoline gallon equivalents through the implementation of diverse transportation projects since 1993. Each coalition is led by an on-the-ground Clean Cities coordinator, like myself, who tailors projects and activities to capitalize on the unique opportunities in the region. All coalitions do this through education and outreach around alternative and renewable forms of transportation fuel, infrastructure, technologies, and vehicles. Each coalition varies slightly by the availability of fuel types and the interests of regional stakeholders. The biggest asset of the local coalition is the network and the stakeholders who make up the coalition. The Clean Cities stakeholders, through their coalitions, have access to national labs, national fleet partners, as well as the connection that comes with other coordinators doing slightly different projects across the country. Coordinators serve as both educators and problem solvers for their stakeholders. We conduct a lot of education and outreach, as well as provide technical assistance for fleets in our area, building great local partnerships along the way. While primarily fleet-focused, coalitions also aim to educate the public and their local elected officials to help everyone make more informed decisions to lower their transportation costs and effects on the environment. So, North Carolina's Clean Cities coalitions are housed within councils of governments. So, we have a unique regional view of program implementation. And North Carolina is served by 3 coalitions. We are the one that focuses on the Charlotte metro area. There's also one, the Land of Sky Clean Vehicles Coalition, that covers the Asheville area. And Triangle Clean Cities covers the capital area. And while we don't geographically cover the whole state, we do work with local partners and Southeast regional partners to assist the other areas. So Clean Cities is the technology integration arm of the Department of Energy Office of Energy Efficiency and Renewable Energy. Clean Cities are fuel-neutral entities working to promote EPACT-identified alternative fuels and deploy infrastructure. We can right-size solutions for fleets and help stakeholders make the right decisions around transportation. So we work with fleets of all sizes, so heavy to light duty. We also assist end users, such as yourself, with understanding mobility choices and new technology, such as micromobility, autonomous vehicle technologies, multi-unit developments, among others. So for this project with Fourth and the City of Charlotte, the core goal of the project aimed to educate consumers around electric vehicles, but also to acknowledge and deal with the issue of electric vehicle availability in North Carolina. Centralina and Fourth reached out to over 20 dealerships for this project to establish contact, inquire if they already had EV training for their salespeople, and offer additional training and partnership moving forward. We also have helped with establishing target audience groups, advertising and messaging, as well as establishing and continuing local connections. We solicited input from external groups, organized the schedule, create and targeted key public groups to ensure they were aware of the webinars, and reached out to several dealerships, as mentioned above. Centralina plans to continue working with these dealerships into the future to assist with dealership training if requested, and partnership for events such as ride and drives. So if you would like more information or to speak with a coordinator about your transportation options, please feel free to visit our website as listed on the slide, or contact myself or my colleague Jason Wager for more information. Thank you. And now I'm going to turn it over to Erica Ruane from the City of Charlotte.
All right. Thank you so much, Karina. And I just want to give a quick thank you so much for everybody joining. Thank you to the American Cities Climate Challenge, to Centralina and to Fourth for helping us to put this on. And of course, super thank you to Andrew, Crystal Marie, and Jess for taking time out of your day to talk to the community about EVs. We really appreciate it. So one more quick slide before we get to the meat of the presentation here. I am Erica Ruane. I am the sustainability coordinator for the sustainability office for the City of Charlotte. And I just want to talk a little bit about why we're doing this today. So in June of 2018, the Sustainable and Resilient Charlotte by 2050 resolution was adopted unanimously. And this set a goal to fuel all fleet, or it set 3 goals. It set a goal for the city to fuel all fleet and facilities by zero carbon sources by 2030. It called for Charlotte to become a low carbon city by emitting less than 2 tons of CO2 equivalent per capita annually. And it requested a plan on how to reach those goals. So on the left, the CAP, our Strategic Energy Action Plan, is our plan for how to reach those goals, which is focused on buildings and transportation. The CAP transportation goals include electrifying our fleet, providing more sustainable modes of transportation like bike lanes, e-buses, and we currently actually have electric vehicle charging equipment that is throughout the city, and it's free to charge at for anybody. And we currently have 40 stations with 72 ports. And again, this is free charging available to the public. At the same time that the CAP was being passed in December of 2018, we were announced as one of the winners of the American Cities Climate Challenge. This Bloomberg Philanthropies Challenge gave us resources to accelerate and strengthen our goals in building and transportation. And so, of course, it supports our CAP. The CAP has 11 linked action areas, 6 focus on municipal operations, and 5 are community-wide goals. As you see on the left side, action area 8, which is facilitate rapid uptake of sustainable modes of transportation. And then task 2 is to develop a promotion and awareness campaign around electric vehicles. And so this is the work that we're doing right now. And on the other side, for the climate challenge, the Transportation Action Market Transformation for EVs supports this work. So these webinars, working with Fourth and Centralina through the Climate Challenge, will help create more electric vehicle accessibility and availability at local dealerships. All right, so let's get on to the meat of our webinar today.
All right. Thank you so much, Erica, and thank you so much, Karina, for those introductions to your organizations. All right, so we've kind of talked about this a little bit, but just another program overview and just some information that might be useful. So essentially, the ultimate goal of this program is to expand and increase access of electric vehicles. What we mean by that is to make it just easier for people to go out and test drive a electric vehicle at a dealership. This is done a couple ways, but mainly we're trying to convince dealerships that they can sell EVs and that's worth their while and that there's the demand there. The other part of this program is that we're actually incentivizing people to go take test drives at these dealerships. So, if you have an EV already, that's fantastic. But if you're looking to upgrade, this is a good opportunity for you to go in and take a test drive in a different one or a variety of them. If you know of a friend that you know hasn't driven an EV yet, another great opportunity. If they take a test drive right now and send us a photo, they have a chance to win a $100 Visa gift card. And their chances are pretty good so far. So absolutely encourage everyone to do that. The dealerships that were listed earlier on Karina's slides, those are the dealerships that have EV inventory. If there's a vehicle that you're looking for that is not available at those dealerships, please reach out to Karina or myself, these emails below, and we can try to get you set up with the car you're looking for, that is. All right, so let's meet today's EV owners panel. Karina, you can turn on your mic and camera as well. Karina Soriano will be the moderator for today's EV owners panel. So we have Jess Montgomery, Crystal Marie McDaniels, and Andrew Diamond. Awesome. All right. And so if you have any questions, please submit them through the attendee chat and make sure that you're specific who your question is for. If it's for everyone, that's great. Just put general. All right, go ahead and take it away, Jess.
Thanks, Stephen, and thanks again for having me on this wonderful presentation. My name is Jess Montgomery. I am the president of the Charlotte Electric Auto Association. And as the slide here says, I've been driving EVs for the past 8 years. The reason why I got into EVs is really from an efficiency perspective. I was very much wanting to reduce the amount of gas that I was using. Anybody who lives in Charlotte knows it takes about 30 minutes to get anywhere around here. And so doing that the most efficient way possible was definitely on my list of priorities. So we moved here from Philadelphia. I quickly got a Honda Civic Hybrid, which was a great car. But after 7 years, electric cars started creeping in, and I thought that either my next car was going to be mostly electric or it was going to be all electric. And the options at that time were not a lot. It was either spending roughly $100,000 for a Model S from Tesla or a Nissan Leaf or a Chevy Volt. And after research, I went ahead and got the Chevy Volt. And I did that because it was mostly electric. It could do my commute in all electric. And in fact, I used electric in that car so much so that I only kept about 1.5 gallons of gas in the tank because I never really used the gas at all. That was a great car, and I always joked that I got that car because I couldn't afford a Tesla because I felt like it was the best option at the time if you couldn't afford that. A year later, my wife, who also drove a Toyota Prius, was driving my Volt on the weekends to get groceries and loved it so much that she said, I got to have an electric car. So we went ahead and got the Nissan Leaf because we felt like it best fit her needs. And we had those two cars for several years. And they were great cars, but I was also a huge Tesla fan and enthusiast and knew that they were coming out with a more affordable model. And so we were really driving these cars, holding out for that particular car. So when I had the opportunity, I actually stood in line for 3 hours, put down a deposit on the car before I even saw it. And after a long 2-year wait, we finally got that car. 9 months later, we decided to go ahead and upgrade my wife's Nissan Leaf to a Model 3 as well. So that's a picture of us on New Year's Eve. I believe that's around 11:30 in the evening, picking up her car. And the reason why we decided to do that on New Year's Eve and so late was because that was the last day of the full $7,500 tax credit. And we wanted to go ahead and take advantage of that. I will say from the experience from driving the Volt and driving the Leaf was, there's this novelty of plugging in that is a lot of fun. It's different. This is a new way of driving and new way of fueling your car. And it's fun to go seek out new charging stations, different areas, and plug the car in. I would say that after the years that we've been driving those cars, we started desiring an electric vehicle that we didn't necessarily have to be so worried about charging wherever we went. My wife at the time worked on the other side of Charlotte. We live in the university area. She worked in Valentine area. And although her Leaf would get her there, she would have to charge all day to be able to get back. And I say all day because there were level 2 chargers at her workplace at the time that were then restricted from her ability to use it because they belonged to another company. So she was having to go across the street to a fast charger, which was fine, but having to do that every day, that was getting old to her. So we were ecstatic to have an electric vehicle like the Model 3 that was able to allow us to enjoy all the benefits that the electric car has to offer, but not have to feel so restricted to having to plug it in wherever we go. We could park these cars wherever we want to park and get to where we want to drive really all day and really all week without having to charge the cars. So it was almost a freedom, if you will. Not to put a negative aspect on electric cars, because they are magical, truly. When I drove my Volt home for the first time, to be driving a car that doesn't make any noise or has no vibrations, but yet is still propelling you forward, it's truly a magical experience. And I'll never forget that experience. On the flip side, though, that experience is so good, you want to do it for as long as you possibly can. So now having cars that get around 250 to 300 miles on charge, we can finally do that. I want to move on to being able to drive around. Charlotte's a pretty rural area, depending on where you go. But I'd say with our experience with the Model 3, I am not limited whatsoever. I shared with a coworker that it was like having a gas car without having to go to a gas station. You charge every evening when you get home from work or from your activity, and it charges overnight to a state of charge that works for you. So some of these pictures I posted, the first one with the rainbow, that was our first road trip to New Jersey. We drove to Cherry Hill, New Jersey and back. And the Tesla experience makes it so seamless and effortless. I would say that the supercharging experience makes it that much better. There's no cards to fiddle with. There's no accounts that you have to have. It's literally you're pulling up and you're plugging in and you're waiting. I would say at most we would wait maybe 20 minutes for a charge. And if anything, I feel like superchargers maybe charge too fast. In some of these locations, you may have to walk to go to the bathroom or whatnot, and it's usually done before you're done. Some of these other locations I have here, we have Biltmore Estate, the Ashboro Zoo, and Lake Lure. Since COVID, we've been taking day trips. I call them Tesla day trips. And every weekend or every other weekend, my kids and I go to a different destination, whether we go hiking or we go on a scenic drive. There are so many level 2 charging stations as well as the superchargers that you can pretty much drive wherever you want with ease. And it is on another level for me personally. It's a joy to be driving around in the country knowing that not only is the car quiet and not making any sounds, but it's also not emitting any emissions as I'm driving. And that's a good feeling as well. And finally, what I wanted to touch on is something that I didn't even know would happen with driving electric, but there is a huge community, even here in Charlotte. When I bought my Volt, immediately was able to connect with a couple of gentlemen. Andrew Diamond, who'll be speak later, is one of those. And we decided to create a group, the Charlotte Electric Auto Association, so we can get the word out and let people know just how great these cars are. And we wanted everybody to not only hear about how great they are, but also demystify a lot of the myths that were going on at the time. So we would meet at Charlotte Cars and Coffee every first Saturday and answer questions and show off the cars. We also have a Tesla owners group that also does lunches every first Friday at the Supercharger. Every year around September, October, we have a huge meetup where we drive the Blue Ridge Parkway. The first year we had about 60 Teslas show up. The second year we doubled that with 120 Teslas. And so in addition to meeting up in person, the online groups, there's our Charlotte Electric Auto Association Facebook page, as well as the Charlotte Tesla Owners Enthusiast page. There's a lot of camaraderie there with EV owners, either sharing their experiences or helping out new owners that are not familiar with their cars. So thank you again for allowing me to speak about my experience. I hope that this helps persuade you to jump into the next experience of driving electric, which is truly driving the future. Thank you. Back to you, Stephen.
Thank you, Jess. That is super cool what you do with your family. That's really cool to hear about trips like that. And anyone else who if you end up getting an EV in the future and you want to be a part of a community, I'd highly recommend reaching out to Jess. All right, so we're going to take a quick pause and actually send out a poll because we want to give some information to our panel about you guys. So we're going to send out those questions now. If you'd like, this is also a good time to answer your questions and then freshen up your coffee. No, the poll seems to have gone away. Is that because it was completed? Oh, sorry about that, everyone. All right, well, we may be moving on to the next question shortly, so get your answers in, and thank you to everyone who has answered so far. All right, here's your next question. Do you all feel that do you feel that there are enough public chargers to meet your needs? It's pretty surprising for a lot of you who haven't looked at these charging apps. If you download the different charging apps and just look at the different charging stations around your area, it's pretty surprising to see how many actually exist. Say PlugShare is a good resource for that. That one's a privately posted site as well. All right, so I think we have one more question for you all, and then we will get back to the presentation, and I will introduce Crystal Marie. All right, let's get back to the presentation then. Thank you to all, to everyone who answered. I really appreciate that. And I'm going to play a video that Crystal Marie put together.
I have a 1-year-old who's starting to walk everywhere. We have Cheerios flying.
Sorry about that, everyone. There seems to be an issue with sound. I'm going to try one more thing.
Welcome to our home. Getting ready to go out on a day of activities in the Navy. Where should we charge? We're headed to the grocery store, to the library, and out to eat. You ready to go? It's really, really important to be able to have convenience, availability of chargers, and be able to get things done that don't get in the way of my day. I already have a 1-year-old who's starting to walk everywhere. We have Cheerios flying. It's so much easier when I can plug in and not think about it. One of the great things about charging stations is they're usually placed at locations where moms and folks tend to go. So they're at grocery stores, they're at restaurants, places that you would naturally be going anyway. So really, it's just an extra few seconds just to plug up and go. And the next thing you know, you have lots of miles and you're ready to go. For us, I find that the charge lasts longer than he does. All right, time to go see Dada.
All right, and we are back. Awesome. Thank you so much for making that video, Crystal Marie. And I will ask you to turn on your webcam and take it away.
Well, first, I want to clarify that I did not make that video. Duke Energy did. I wish I had that talent and skill. But essentially, they were hoping to show that electric vehicle ownership is really for any and everyone. It isn't something that's just for techies. It's something that is a great fit for folks like myself who are moms and carting around a kid. A few other updates from that video. It was shot in September 2018, I believe, or no, 2019, August. And so we were just the next week after that, we moved to a house. So I think I have a unique perspective, and then I can show what it's like to be a renter and be living in a multifamily living situation and be able to still charge. And then now that we're homeowners and we have a single family home with a garage, I'm able to charge here. So I can kind of give the perspective on both of those sides. And as you can see in this picture here, which is from a few months ago when we were trying to figure out COVID-friendly activities, and we were doing like a drive-in up at the YMCA near Lake Norman. My son is a lot taller and definitely can walk and run and jump off things versus what he was able to do when we shot that video. So to give you some quick background is my journey to become an electric vehicle owner started in Los Angeles, California, very typical. I was actually pregnant with my son, and we lived right next door to a Tesla dealership. And so one day we didn't have anything to do, and we were like, let's just test drive a Model S for fun. We can't afford it, but we'll see what it's like. And I'd heard the cars were really safe. So as someone who was pregnant, I was really excited to see what that was like. So we test drove it and we loved it, but I was like, maybe one day. And then I delivered my son, and we figured out that we really needed to move somewhere with a lower cost of living. So we moved to Charlotte, North Carolina, which we love. It's been great so far. And we were able to use both federal rebates as well as, and since I was still technically a California resident, even though I was living in North Carolina, like my driver's license was still in California, we were able to get California rebates as well. And also, my current employer, Duke Energy, offers a credit to employees if they purchase an electric vehicle. So when everything was put all together, it made a little bit more financial sense for us to purchase a Tesla. Not quite a Model S, but the Model 3. And at that time, in 2018, like I mentioned, I was living in an apartment. And so I would charge pretty much anywhere, Whole Foods, and also at my workplace, they had a charger there. So I didn't have any issues. I never really ran out of charge. I was always pretty prepared. But then when we bought our home about a year ago and we live here where there's a charger now, I charge in the garage. And it's simpler. It's a bit easier, but I wouldn't say that either situation was better or worse. Interestingly enough, since we've been here, I was primarily charging at Duke Energy at my workplace in Uptown. I used many of those free public charging stations in Charlotte that were mentioned earlier, which I love and I'm really appreciative of. But now that we're home with the pandemic, I mean, it feels like I can't charge in my workplace, but I'm also not going anywhere. So it really is okay. Since I've owned the car, we have driven almost 30,000 miles. We've gone throughout North Carolina. I have family in South Carolina, so we've been there as well. I've been to Atlanta. I think I stopped to charge once. And I've taken a few trips to DC where I also have family and friends. My alma mater, Howard University, is there. So I've spent some time there. And I believe I charged, every time I've gone to DC, I would charge twice. And it actually worked out perfectly because it was right when you need a bathroom break and to grab a snack. And all of the charging stations that I've been to have been in retail areas. So there's like a Barnes & Noble off 95 that I randomly spend a lot of time at whenever I'm driving up to DC. So I love hearing from folks like Jess and some of the other people that are on this call that have been in this for a long time because I feel like I've learned so much. And because they were willing to be those early adopters, it really helped to benefit folks like myself. I love that it reduces my carbon footprint. Even now when my husband has a gas powered vehicle. So sometimes when he comes out of our garage and I just smell the smoke or see it, I'm just like, oh goodness, I can't believe that we were both pumping this into the environment before. So I'm grateful for that. I love that with my car, and I think with several other makes and models of electric cars, there are some, there's future proofing. You know, the car is consistently like kind of rebooting itself. The software update makes it better. I love that it's really safe because of the low center of gravity and because there's no engine. There's more of what's called a crumple zone, and I'm sure there are other folks in the call that can speak more eloquently to that, but I feel a lot more comfortable putting my son in this car. And I love that it's low maintenance. There's no oil changes. I have never been interested in getting an oil change. I love that once a year I take it to the dealership and they do the annual maintenance, and I haven't really had any issues. And the other really random thing I love about it is I love listening to podcasts all the time, and it makes it very easy. It's very intuitive for that. That's a very minor benefit that most people don't talk about, but I'm just here to tell you what I love about it. And also, my son loves it. My son loves that the roof is glass, and so he kind of looks through it and looks out into the world where we finally have green trees, unlike when we lived in Los Angeles. And so that's pretty much what I have to share. If anyone has questions about what it's like to charge when you're living in an apartment building, what it's like to charge with a level 1 charger at home, what it's like to be out and about or take road trips, I'm happy to answer those questions as well.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Crystal Marie.
Sure.
And we will be moving on to questions after Andrew Diamond. And Andrew is our next presenter.
Hi, good day. It's kind of hard to even go back to where the beginning of this is. I'm going to go way back, I think, to the 1980s. I've always been a bit of a motorhead and a bit of a tech head. You could say I'm pretty much a geek. And, with that, I've always had a variety of cars. Over the years, I've owned all kinds of cars and trucks, and just really been, pretty oriented towards the motor vehicle industry, and in fact, even worked for a number of car manufacturers on a variety of software projects. For a while, worked for PPG in the automotive glass group, which makes windshields and side lights, primarily for General Motors, Chrysler, Toyota, and Honda in North America. I come from a car background, and over the years, of course, I've never really had, I guess, a huge love of the oil industry. I remember being a kid and my dad cussing about the price of oil going up or gas going up in the 1970s. With that, there's always been kind of that, I guess, double-edged thing where you love the car, but you don't like the way that the car's propelled, and you don't like the emissions that the car creates. I guess I believe it was 2009, the BP Deepwater Horizon mishap happened in the Gulf of Mexico, putting millions of gallons of crude oil into the Gulf. I grew up on the Florida coast, and I was appalled at the accident happening, and further just disgusted with the response that the executives at British Petroleum had in regard to what they were going to do about fixing the problem. And at that point, I really got very interested in figuring out how to get away from gasoline-powered vehicles. I guess it was at some point in 2011, I went to a Charlotte Clean and Green, which was an event that used to be held annually. It was a fairly large kind of festival, which had to do mostly with recycling and reusing things and reducing our footprint on the planet as people, mostly in the material way. But one of the things that was there was a Chevy Bolt, and that was my initial introduction that electric vehicles were going to be coming. I believe I had read about the Tesla Roadster in magazines, but that just seemed so far away. That was something that Hollywood folks in California had, not people like me. So when I first saw the Chevy Bolt, that really got my interest and got my attention. And it was at that point that I decided that that was going to be my next vehicle. With the Bolt, which I got 8 years ago, I think like a lot of people who are nervous about going to electric, I put my toes in the water first. I was an early adopter. It was 2012. And so the Volt, was allowed me to do that in two different ways. One is it had a lease that was fairly attractive. So that meant that I could lease the vehicle for 3 years and give it back to General Motors. And so if it didn't work out, it wasn't like I was married to the car. I knew that it had a duration and an end. And that made things feel a little safer to me. The second thing was it had a gasoline range extender, which, obviously gave me that familiar fallback to be able to go back to gasoline as well. And I had basically about a 32 to 34 mile a day commute. And in having the Volt, I came to realize that I really didn't drive much more than that most days. And in fact, could drive 100% electric on the Volt, which was rated, I believe, at 38 miles of range, which turned out to be more like 45 in the summer and maybe 35 in the winter, most days. So I think actually in the second year of owning the Volt, I drove it such that I put 12,000 miles on it, and I believe I only used somewhere in the neighborhood of 6 gallons of gas for the entire year. And that was when it occurred to me that, I really could just give up on gas and let go of that perceived safety line that I thought I needed. A year later, as one of the founding owners of B-Yoga and Wellness in Charlotte, we bought a company vehicle, or leased a company vehicle that was a Nissan Leaf. And then once the Volt lease was up, I transitioned to a Tesla Model S, as seen in this top picture above. And I'm trying to transition to the next slide. I don't think I have the controls to do that. Oh, thank you. So with the Tesla, that allowed me to go to full electric. And I've also taken the Tesla a number of places, including I've been to Florida 4 times with it. I've been to Atlanta at least 6 times, probably Asheville more than a dozen times. I've been to Snowshoe, West Virginia, skiing, and I've been to the South Carolina coast and North Carolina coast with it a few times as well. Owning an electric vehicle just isn't all that hard. You don't have, it doesn't take long to not miss going to the gas station. But frankly, it's been really healthy for me from the standpoint that, I used to go to the gas station, and the gas station would have pork rinds, scratch-off cards, packs of smokes, bear claws. So basically, my eating habits have improved. My gambling has greatly reduced, all because I don't really go to gas stations anymore. Managing an electric vehicle as far as keeping it powered isn't really any more difficult than a cell phone. I mean, if you can manage to keep your cell phone charged so that you can use your cell phone, you pretty well can manage to keep an electric vehicle charged so you can use an electric vehicle. So that's another thing that's a huge plus. And I'll second the idea on the maintenance. The maintenance is basically non-existent. I go through some tires. And I have a performance Model S, which, depending on how heavy your foot is, you can go through some tires. And that, I guess, that was my shift back to performance. I talked about being a car nut. So I got away from the gas first, and then in the second step, as I went towards the performance with the Tesla. But beyond keeping the vehicle in tires, there's really just not all that much to do in the way of maintenance. It's pretty simple. Once a year, maybe once every 2 years even, I can take it into the Tesla store, and they'll take care of a few things. The efficiency is also really, really good. I tell people that if you can imagine what it would be like to buy gasoline for, say, 70 or 80 cents a gallon, that's really what it costs on electricity to run a Tesla or run any electric vehicle. That your fueling cost will go down to a third of what it would be in an equivalent gasoline vehicle. And so with that, eventually I am going to cut off all gasoline vehicles out of my life. I still have a pickup truck that's gas, but ultimately we're going to be trading that in and getting a Cybertruck Tesla and going to being a 100% electrical household. And all of this is with no lifestyle changes that make life any more difficult. It's not like I had to give up anything. I didn't have to give up speed, performance, comfort, none of that. So when people talk about, oh, well, you're going to give up things to do this, and the answer to that is no. And as the cost comes down, we'll even be able to do it, I would say, within this year or the next couple of years with equivalent cost. So it's really just win-win across the boards, and that's been my experience with EVs. Thank you very much.
Thanks for sharing, Andrew. All right. Well, if anyone has questions, now is the time. Let me pull here. So here are our presenters again, in case you want to specifically have their name listed. Okay, so we have a question for everyone. What do you recommend would be the best way to look for a used EV? And I guess specifically, you know, Andrew and Jess, I know that you both have had Leafs and Volts, so I don't know if you bought them new. Do you have a lot of experience working with people who are looking for used vehicles in your Charlotte EV club?
This is Jess. I can say that the Volt I bought new. My wife's first Leaf we bought new, but we did buy a used second Leaf. Her first Leaf was a lease, and when it was up, the Model 3 still was not out, so we got her a used Leaf from Carvana. It had more bells and whistles than the first one that we had. But I will have to say, I think with the Teslas, you're probably, or anything with a battery management system, anything that is liquid cooled battery, and you may have to do a little bit of research for that. I think you're going to be okay. When it came to the Leaf is designed with air cooled battery. And the reason I bring that up is because that second used Leaf, we lost a battery bar within the first year of buying it. Now, it had 30,000 miles on it, but so did my wife's Leaf when she gave it back to Nissan, and it had all of its battery bars. So we felt like maybe it was used a little more, a little harder. Maybe it was harder, more aggressively driven, and maybe it just wasn't as taken care of as the one that we had. So I don't think that you're going to have too much of a problem buying a used EV, so long as again, that battery system is managed properly with a liquid cooled system. And maybe I should elaborate on that. What that means is that these batteries, they like temperature around like what humans like. And so the computers are constantly maintaining that battery temperature. So for example, with the Tesla, if it's hot out or cold out, it will do whatever it needs to do to warm or cool that battery so that it is comfortable. And so therefore it maintains a longer longevity. Hope that helps.
Yeah, I can answer that question a little bit. I leased the Volt and the Leaf new, but the Tesla Model S I bought used directly from Tesla as a certified pre-owned. At this point, I guess at that point in time, really there wasn't a lot in the way of used EVs. I think we're now starting to see the point where a lot more used EVs are coming to market. I imagine you're going to see some people selling their Tesla Model 3s, trading in for Model Ys just to get the extra space. So I would say that probably the Model 3 as a used vehicle is going to become a really good stepping point or starting point. I would also say the Chevy Bolt, the battery system of the Bolt is really good as far as keeping the battery healthy over a long period of time. I would say the Bolt is as good as the Tesla is for that, and so I would not hesitate for a second to buy a used Chevy Bolt. The Chevy Bolt is a bit of a sleeper car. I think it's a tremendous piece of engineering. It's a really good car, and you can pick them up used at a pretty good price.
Yeah, and that's a good point, Andrew. Thanks for bringing that up. We have a 17-year-old. Well, she's soon to be 17 and looking to be driving soon. And I'm actually in the throes of looking for a used Chevy Volt. Even a high mileage one should be okay, both on the battery and that engine, because it's people are sharing the powertrain on that, right? So if it has 120,000 miles on it, the engine may not have 120,000 miles on it, and the battery may not have 120,000 miles on it. So it should last for quite a while.
Great. Thank you so much for that information. And can folks hear me okay? Okay, great. Just wanted to make sure I was having a momentary difficulty earlier. So we'll wrap up our questions here in just a moment. And we do encourage folks to reach out if you have any additional questions that we weren't able to get to today. Perhaps for all of our panelists, maybe if you could give us a little bit of an idea of what was your number one motivating factor to go electric? I know a couple of y'all have stated a few of your intentions with it, but is there maybe one overarching reason why you decided to go electric? And maybe we'll start with Crystal Marie.
Sure. Number one reason was safety. And it actually plays into the question I see Jason mentioned. What are some of the top questions or considerations for your family? And that was certainly it for me. Safety, and then wanting something that I would be able to drive for the next 7 to 10 years and not worry that it would be outdated.
Great. Thank you. Jess or Andrew?
My first initial was definitely reducing the amount of gasoline and emissions that we use. Like Andrew, I've also converted over my lawnmower over to electric. We also have electric blowers. We have no gas in our house or around our house, aside from natural gas for heat, obviously, but no gasoline for fuel. And then, like Krista Marie, the other option as we've gotten into it and with the Tesla is that the over-the-air updates are a plus. The car that I bought in early 2018 is not the same car that I have now. It's actually much better. So I'm hoping that these are cars that we can keep for at least 10 years, or if not more. So that's now my decision making. Now that we have it.
Gotcha.
Yeah,
Thank you, Andrew.
Jump in and say that, I would say that decision making today is different than what decision making was 8 years ago or even 4 years ago. There's a lot more in the way of options and more options on the way. And so before, the decision was to go EV, and then I had to just pick from whatever there was, which was fairly limited. Now, looking at vehicles, it's okay, what do I need a vehicle for? What form factor is going to work for me? You could get a Chrysler minivan that's a plug-in these days. There's a number of SUVs that are plug-in. And soon there's going to be a number of pickup trucks. I mean, I know that Ford is working on one. Tesla is going to have one, and there's going to be some other ones. So, the question in the future is a little bit different, because the question then just becomes, whatever vehicle I want to buy, I'll be able to buy it as an EV. So in my family, I want to keep, basically one hatchback and one truck, and I'll be able to do that as an EV.
Great. Well, thank you all so much for your time today. We really appreciate y'all being able to come and present for us, and lots of great information. So we definitely encourage our attendees to follow up with our presenters or with Stephen and myself if you have any additional questions. And we do have our contact information listed on the slide there. And yeah, I just appreciate y'all being here today with us. Thank you.
Absolutely. And I'll do a quick outro. Here's the contact information from the presenters again. We will share this with you after the presentation. Keep in mind, everyone's got a unique situation. Jess Jess said that he had leased a Volt, which is good. So if you have any leasing questions, that's awesome. Crystal Marie has not only lived in an apartment, but also bought the car for safety. So there's a lot of different variations here. And then Andrew Diamond, that was a really cool story about how into performance you are and how that really kind of lined up with the EV road for you as well. So super cool. Thank you all for being here again. We shared this slide earlier. Please, if you know anyone who is curious about EVs, we will send the recording of this webinar. Please send this to them and encourage them to take a test drive at a local dealership. That would be super helpful. And it would be a great thing to get more EVs in Charlotte. All right, and so just one more time, the dealerships they're participating is Hendrick Chevy. They've got some Chevy Bolts there, and Planet Mitsubishi's got some plug-in hybrid Outlanders there. It's a cool car as well. It's got a range of about 26 miles, and of course Tesla has the 3 different models that are available there as well. So if you have questions about this presentation, feel free to reach out to myself or Karina or Eric as well. We will be doing another one of these webinars on the 19th, and we'll be doing an EV 101 on the 12th. All right, well, thank you all for coming, and have a great rest of your day.